Well, reactions continue to pour in, and of course, it's come at a cost. Muda, let me start with you. It's come at a cost to businesses, starting with, and the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, you've been able to put a figure to that, to somewhere around 1.5 billion US dollars, over 500 billion naira. Talk to us about the costs, and how you arrived at this figure, and just general costs.
Well, the postponement caused a lot of disruption to businesses. It caused some level of confidence problem to investors. And few days to the election, or to the proposed date for the election, the economy slowed down. But a day before the election, we could say that we could be talking of half day, in the sense in which workers talk about the economy. You know, a lot of businesses wound up maybe by midday and all of that. So we didn't witness full economic activities on Friday. That's the day before the election. That has its own cost. There was a lot of travels. People were traveling from one location to the other. Many SMEs had to shut down their businesses, either for security reasons or to go and vote elsewhere. Then on Saturday, which was supposed to be the day for the election, there was a total shutdown of the economy. You know, no activities practically, apart from perhaps the media. Nothing was happening. The borders were shut. The markets were closed. All businesses closed down and all of that. So by the time you estimate all of this, based on the value of the economy, based on the GDP of the economy, is about 450 billion. Having regard also to the fact that we had a partial shutdown the day before, full shutdown thereafter, then the confidence issues that were triggered by the very essence of the postponement, particularly at the time it was postponed.
And we're going to repeat this.
Yes, because the shock was bigger because of the timing.
Oh, okay.
This is not the first time we are having elections postponed. The impact wasn't as high as what it had this time. So it was a lot of shock. It was the estimation of the value based on our national output that led us to estimate that about 1.5 billion US dollars must have been lost to this issue.
Now, I've heard people talk about, who's going to take responsibility? Is there compensation? Obviously, I know that is first may sound far-fetched, but people are asking, how do I retrieve that? Who's going to compensate me? You heard our last guest talking about the number of women she sent across the country, trying to reach them, and of course, the cost to businesses. What are your thoughts on that?
Who will compensate? Who has the capacity to compensate anyway? And how are you going to compensate? What methodology, what framework are you going to use? So it's not practical to be talking of compensation. I think what we can hope for is that let this sacrifice not be in vain. Let us have an election that will justify the kind of sacrifice that we have made, both at the corporate level, at the individual level, at the national level, at the party level, and so on and so forth.
Onyekachi, let me come to you. We're going to talk security, but just to hear your thoughts on this. Yes. Obviously, everybody has had to take that cost, personal cost, for businesses, some varies from business to business, but definitely at a cost.
Well, like I said, yes, there's a cost, but we just hope that people have not borne that cost in vain, really, because at this time we can slice it, dice it as we would. Doesn't change what has happened. The real shocker was the time at which the postponement was announced. It caused a lot of uncertainty. Could almost be likened to when we had the normal bells, don, 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 that says there's a new change in government. It was a shock. People were so shocked to the point that on Saturday morning, people froze at home because the level of uncertainty was high. Nobody was willing to come out. It took people till midday. Some people said we had to wait till 2 p.m., the time announced by INEC, for the briefing to explain what exactly happened. And some people didn't move until 2 p.m. So I think the cost is very high, just as a way to buttress what he has said. But as to who will compensate, I'm not sure where compensation will come from.
Let me quickly, Mr. Muda, let me quickly ask you this. Listening to the INEC chairman, given the explanations that he gave, was that satisfactory to you? What are your thoughts on that?
No, it wasn't satisfactory. I think there has been some maybe error of judgment or whatever. Because the real issue, just as he said, is the timing. Now, if there were issues of flight, issues of weather, issues of materials not getting to destination on time. These are things that you could easily foresee. That, okay, 2-3 days down the line, this date is not likely to be realistic. And at that time, it could have been better to announce a postponement. You have had a postponement announcement 1 week ahead, 48 hours ahead, But to be talking about issue of whether that materials had to be moved by road and all of that, I don't think it's a very satisfactory.
Onyekachi, now, the security forces were involved. The army, the police, Nigeria Air Force, in lifting, part of the INEC logistics team. And INEC also alluded to the fact that, like Mr. Yusuf just said, some planes bad weather, some planes couldn't land. But the spokespeople from the Nigeria Air Force, the military, have come out to say, no, we did our part. When we were asked to airlift materials, we airlifted some planes, and some actually even refuting the story on the bad weather, that no, planes actually landed. So I'm just asking, this is, and something just doesn't add up. But what is your take? The role of the security forces in logistics?
For me, I think the security forces did fairly well. I think they did well. I remember they started deploying from Wednesday, non-sensitive materials. You had very senior police officers deployed, DSS, the NSCDC. You had resources fully mobilized and deployed. As a matter of fact, in some states, they had to call back some materials as of Thursday. So, based on the intelligence gathered and the information gathered, it was clear that a lot was not right with INEC, even from Wednesday. So they had to, yes, they may have had some logistical issues, but it does, like you said, it doesn't add up. They had 4 years to prepare. You don't postpone an election the way and manner it was done. It throws up a lot of questions. As to security, I think that the resources that we mobilized were fully deployed. As at Saturday, some state commissioners of police, on Friday, they had declared the curfew as they wanted to declare based on their own local exigencies. The curfews were not uniform. So Lagos had its own time, different states, and you had resources deployed. Now, funny though, after the postponement, the police just went to sleep. Everybody went to sleep. They were so disappointed themselves. You could see some of them passing comments on Facebook. We were called out by so time, we dressed up, we got out there, only to be told that this is coming from police officers themselves, that the election had been postponed. So nobody really knows what exactly happened. The full story is we don't have the full story. It has
also come at a cost to the police force, because I knew that the duty allowances were already paid to police officers across the country. So does that mean same amount has to be paid again?
So it's neither here nor there. INEC has almost about 186 billion to execute the elections. The executive may ask for some variant, but the money has to come out from somewhere. When you deploy someone, he's deployed already. Even if he does 2-3 hours, he has been deployed. He's left his house, he has resumed for duty, and most deployments are made 2 days, a day before D-Day and D-Day. Then there will be some other post-D-Day deployment. So there's a cost, but I don't think the cost is to the police.
Okay, Mr.
And the cost also, the parties also incurred a lot of cost.
Yes.
That's of deploying party agents across the entire polling booth.
I suppose that's why they're asking that they should be allowed to continue their campaign. But
even INEC.
I wanted to ask you this, for businesses, now that it's been postponed, things have become a little more complicated, because now both parties, the major parties, PDP and APC, are accusing themselves of trying to manipulate.
And also accusing INEC.
What does that mean for businesses in terms of, we know it had already created uncertainty. We're just looking at the stock market falling today. Does this make business owners more nervous now?
Of course, because we are now beginning to see a situation where both the ruling party and the opposition party are accusing INEC. But more disturbing is the fact that the ruling party is beginning, the way the ruling party is sounding, it's as if they're also beginning to lose confidence in INEC, almost bordering on suspicion that maybe there is more to it that has not been disclosed. And when you have a confidence crisis with such a very strategic institution, it has implications far beyond the political space. It has a lot of implications for investors' confidence. Because right now, whatever way the elections goes, I mean, there could be all sorts of allegations or accusations, either from the APC or from PDP or from whichever party.
Okay,
so there's a major confidence problem that has been created, which will have very far-reaching implications for the economy and investment.
We're going to have to leave it there, but thank you so much for your thoughts today, your perspective. Of course, it's the developing story, and we'll see how things, and hopefully we will have our elections come Saturday.
Hopefully.
Next weekend, I'll be speaking to Muda Yusuf, Director General of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and Onyekachi Adekoya, Managing Director at PR24.